Okay, I apologize. The video that I put in the announcements for some reason didn't save any of the visuals. So I'll double check this one and make sure, but you should be able to see right now the instructions for your pathology instructional flyer that you're going to make this week. This is your assignment. And you're already in the threads looking up and getting a lot of information on a disease. So I would use that because then you've already got some of your research done, you've got some references, and you got a good start on this. So let's look over here what you're going to do. You're going to identify and research a prevalent infectious disease. So it has to be something that's infectious, and that's why we're looking at outbreaks this week. You're going to prepare a one-page flyer to provide public information about the disease. A lot of times people, they're not going to read, our patients are not going to read if you leave an article out, for them. But they would read a one-page flyer, especially if you have it up in your office and they know, well, that's something I need to be aware of, and it's easy for them to get the information. You can, like I said on the other one, you could make these in just the one page like we're doing now, or prepare one of those bifold ones where you fold the paper up 3 different ways. That way people can easily slip it into their pocket. Whatever works to get the word out to the public to keep them safe. You're going to include pathophysiology of the disease, including transmission, preventative measures, clinical manifestations, diagnostic criteria, and treatment options. Prepare it to catch the eye of the public and inform them. And here's the outcomes that this is going to focus on. And I'm going to drop on down here to the rubric, and we'll just go through this rubric. And then I'm going to show you a couple flyers that some of other students have done, and then talk about those, and so it kind of gives you an idea. So we're going to identify a prevalent infectious disease and prepare this one-page flyer to inform the public, and it should be prepared to catch the eye regarding the disease. So by catching the eye and visualizing, maybe put a picture on it or some color. You learned all those different techniques in your 125 class, or even probably in English. So just use some of those techniques so that somebody will want to look at your flyer. Like it tells you here, include fonts, colors, images, easy to read. So you don't want to make the font too small where people can't have to go get a microscope or something to look at it. So make it easy for them to read. All right, so then we're going to go here. You're going to present the pathophysiology of the disease. So how is this disease affecting the human body? How is it transmitted? Do we catch this from people coughing? Is it airborne? Do we catch this from touching things, eating things, mosquito bites, whatever the vector is or way of transmitting the disease? You want to share that with them. Discuss how the disease affects your cells, tissues, organs, or organ systems. So this is the pathophysiology of it. What's it going to do in the human body? And you want to be, thorough with that, but kind of keep it in terms where the public would understand. Present clinical manifestations, including relevant diagnostic data, or criteria rather. So what signs and symptoms would we see from this disease? Are they sneezing? Or they have a rash? Do they have a fever? Do they have aches and pains? So we want subjective, objective signs and symptoms that they've got this disease. And then what diagnosis are you going to do? Diagnostic rather. Tests are you going to run? Are you going to do a blood test? Do you do a urine test? Do you have to do an MRI? What do you have to do to confirm the diagnosis? We've seen what they look like. We're hearing from them what they feel like and what they know about their disease. And now, how are we going to finally diagnose it based on diagnostic tests? And you may find that there is no specific diagnostic test for your disease. Then you say that, just so we know that you've looked that part up. Then present treatment options. So now that we know for sure they've got it, what are they going to have to take or do to get well again. So provide the treatment options, including prevention of transmission completely. And so by completely and interpreted, that means in layman's terms, tell us, are they going to have to take a medication? What medications? Are they on bed rest, or do they have to, I don't know, whatever it says that they need to do to feel better or get over this disease, you want to put that on the flyer. And then we don't want them to get it again, or if they haven't gotten it, we want to let them know how to prevent getting it. So if it's hand washing or whatever it is, put that on your flyer. So prevention and treatment. And then of course, here's the formatting. It needs to have a minimum of 2 scholarly resources cited and referenced to support the information. And we'll look at some of the other flyers to see how you can cite it in there and do your references. Check your spell check. The worst thing we can do is hand something out to the public and it's got misspelled words in it. They might not trust us after that. So check over your punctuation and everything. So let's look at one. I'm going to move this off to the side so we can kind of refer to it. And here we have one. Now this one is in a landscape, so it's kind of going this way. And the way they built this was in 3 columns. So I guess if you wanted to, you could actually fold it up. And so to get their 2 sources in here, they've got them down here in the corner, and that's fine too. We're not going to go ballistic APA here, but you could have had references or sources. References would have been the proper APA. And then they've got their 2 references here. Now, as far as citations, I don't really see citations here. In order to do that, whatever part of this came from the CDC, you could just put your parenthetical citation, parentheses CDC, comma 2015, and then the other parentheses. And then whichever one this information came from, they should have had that on there. So you can see this is just one way to do it. It's eye-catching. It looks a little small because it's on my screen. If I bring it up, well, I guess it's 100%. It's a little small from this end, but if you printed it off, it might look a lot larger. I see color here to draw me to the name of it. And boy, it's in red, so it sounds kind of scary, right? It's a scary disease, bloodborne disease. And then there's the mosquito, because that's probably the person that's the transmission there. So they've got everything in here as they're telling us what the disease is. They got the transmission, clinical manifestations, diagnostics that need to be done, treatment and prevention, and then they've got their resources, and this part is an overview of it. The only missing link would be some in-text citations, right? I'm sorry about that, my phone's ringing. All right, so let's look at another sample. Okay, here we go. Hold on. Okay, so now we're going to look at another sample. This sample is portrait size, so it's up long ways up, and that's just fine too. They didn't use the columns, but they've got colorful boxes here. That works. So we have the name of it nice and bright. Everything looks easy to read. Down here we've got our references, and we can see our 2 references. If I look up, again, I'm not seeing the in-text citations, but you can easily stick those in anywhere. You can probably put one here, or if it has to do with this, or wherever it's supposed to go. We do the same thing. This is CDC 2016, and this one was Merck and Dome, whatever, Dome Corporation. You could put those up in here in any way you want. But they've got everything, right? If you look at what you're supposed to do, tell us what the infectious disease is. They've got color, fonts, catch to the eye. We have the pathophysiology. Let's try to look for that. Here's the strains that cause it. This tells what's going on with it. We've got some in here as far as probably you could add a little more pathophys. We really, as far as that pathophys, we really want to know what's going on in the body rather. So it's telling it in here. And then they've got the clinical manifestations. Where's our clinical manifestations? Prevention, I see that. I see the treatments. I see the diagnostics. Warts. Widespread virus that infects both males and females. 14 million new cases diagnosed each year. Almost HIV clears up on their own. Certain strains of the virus lead to these different disorders in both males and females. Here's your signs and symptoms, or almost no signs and symptoms. It can be spread through any general contact. So they've got it in here. You might want to add just a little more pathophysiology on it, but it is saying what happens if with this virus, what it's going to lead to. And if there's no signs and symptoms other than, the warts, then that's what they've said. So they have looked it up and covered it. You might want to add more in yours if you want to, just so that you feel comfortable that you've covered everything that's expected in your nice one-page flyer. Now, I'm not going to panic if you have a disease that takes up a little more room and you have to have a second page for your references. That's okay. Just so your flyer itself, because really your patients might look up your references because they might want to know more about it, but in reality you could have put it on the second side, right? You could have had that on the back. So if you can fit it all on one page, great. If you can't and you have to make the references sitting on the back of it, that's fine too. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Just make sure that you've got everything in here that's expected, which is not too much, pretty clear. Prevalent disease, going to identify it, talk about it, make the one-page flyer. You're going to talk about the pathophysiology, and remember what's going on in that body. What's it doing at the cellular level? What's it doing to your tissues, organs, organ systems? I mean, some of these affect the different organs in the body. We want to hear about that. How is it going to present? Signs and symptoms. How are you going to test for this? What are the treatment options? And how would you prevent it from being transmitted so people don't get it? How can they support themselves with protection? Then you're going to include your two references, either at the bottom or on the second page. Either way is fine. And as far as citations, you can just stick them up in the top. These two scholarly citations, does it say we have to put them up there? Let's just look, just be sure. Are cited and referenced. Yes, you're supposed to get them up in the top. So try to put them up just wherever you're using that information. If that information came from one source, just put your parenthetical citation up there. Okay? All right, if you have any questions, just give me a call or shoot me an email or put something into the questions for the instructor. This is due Sunday, so I'll put this new video in the announcements and I'll also send it out in the email. Okay, thank you.